By now, you've probably heard about the signal leaks that have rocked the White House top Trump administration officials accidentally texting their war plans for Yemen to Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. It's a wild story. Classified details about Houthi targets, weapons, and timing, all spilled in a group chat on an app that's not even approved for this kind of sensitive stuff. The bombs started falling in Yemen on March 15th, and the world watched in shock as the breach came to light. While Yemen's part of this mess has everyone talking, there's another angle that's even bigger, and it's been hiding in the plain sight. This leak isn't just about military strikes. It's a window into what the Trump administration really thinks about their so-called European allies, and it's not pretty. Let's rewind a bit. In that signal chat, while Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, was laying out strike plans, something else was brewing, a debate that peeled back the curtain on this White House's deep-seated frustration with Europe. Vice President J.D. Vance kicked it off, questioning the Yemen strikes by pointing out a stark reality: only 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez Canal, compared to 40% of European trade. His point? Why should America foot the bill and the risk for something that benefits Europe way more? I just hate bailing Europe out again, he said. That's not just a casual jab. That's a sentiment that cuts deep. And Vance isn't alone here. Pete Hegseth jumped in, agreeing with him, saying, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic." These aren't offhand comments buried in some obscure memo. This is the Vice President and the Secretary of Defense openly venting their disdain for Europe in a chat that was supposed to be about Yemen. Think about that for a second. These are the guys shaping US policy, and they're not shy about how they feel. Vance has been vocal before, slamming Europe at a Munich security conference earlier this year. Hegseth did the same in his first NATO meeting as Defense Secretary, calling out what he sees as the alliance's over-reliance on America. This isn't new. It's a pattern.
Leaders of our European allies should take primary responsibility for defense of the continent.
I also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense. The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor.
What these texts confirm is that this isn't just a few grumpy officials blowing off steam. This anti-Europe sentiment is deep-rooted in the Trump White House. It's not about one-off frustrations. It's a worldview. You can see it in the chat. When Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, chimes in with trade figures and points out that Europe's navies can't handle the shipping lanes on their own. He says it'll have to be the US that steps up, now or later, and they're already figuring out how to make Europe pay for it. Then Stephen Miller, or someone using his initials, lays it out plain as day. If America restores freedom of navigation, there's got to be economic gain extracted in return. And here's where it gets real. This isn't just chatter from the underlings. It's got the backing of the man himself, Donald Trump. When a reporter asked him about Vance and Hegseth calling Europe freeloaders, Trump didn't dodge it. He leaned right in.
Secretary of Defense, on that chain, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and J.D. Vance, the Vice President, said that the Europeans were freeloading. Do you agree with that assessment?
Do you really want me to answer that? Yeah, I think they've been freeloading. The European Union's been absolutely terrible to us on trade. Terrible.
He went on, railing about NATO, saying he had to force them to pay up hundreds of millions because they were way behind. He even tied it to Ukraine, pointing out the US is in for $350 billion, while Europe's at $100 billion.
And as you know, NATO, I got them to pay hundreds of billions of dollars. They were way behind. And if you look if you look at Ukraine, so we're in for $350 billion because of Biden. Should have never happened, this war. I think when they say the European Union and you could say NATO also. Look, NATO, and I don't blame NATO for this. I don't blame Europe for this. I blame Biden for the fact that he didn't make them equalize. And to this day, I said to him, you're going to catch up, you're going to equalize. But why are they in for $100 billion and we're in for possibly $350 billion? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
That's not a slip of the tongue. That's Trump putting his stamp on this whole narrative. Now picture this from Europe's side. They're already scrambling. A continent fractured by economic woes, political division, and a war in Ukraine that's got everyone on edge. NATO's supposed to be their backbone, the alliance of the willing with the US at the helm. But these leaks, they're like a gut punch. Imagine being a European leader reading this, your biggest allies' top brass calling you pathetic freeloaders, plotting to bill you for their military muscle, and doing it all in a leaky group chat that's now public. It's not just embarrassing, it's a crisis. They're left wondering, can they even count on US backing anymore? This adds to Europe's woes in a big way. They're already struggling to hold it together. Brexit's fallout, energy shortages, and now a US administration that sees them as a burden rather than a partner. The signal leak isn't just a security blunder, it's a diplomatic bombshell. Sure, the Yemen strikes were the headline, but the real story here is how this White House views the transatlantic relationship. It's not about solidarity, it's about leverage. And with Trump himself doubling down, calling Europe out as freeloaders, it's clear this isn't some rogue opinion. It's policy. It's personal. It's the Trump doctrine laid bare. So while the Yemen part of the signal leaks has Washington buzzing about espionage laws and classified breaches, don't sleep on what's underneath. Europe's the bigger piece of this puzzle. These texts didn't just expose war plans, they exposed a rift that could reshape alliances for years. The bombs may have fallen in Yemen, but the shockwaves, they're hitting Brussels, Berlin, and beyond. And with Trump's team unapologetic about it, one thing's for sure, this leak's fallout is just getting started.